Okay, girls, so our last section for today for multiplying decimals is going to be multiplying decimals by multiples of 10. So let's look again at patterns. Let's see what happens here. So if I have 4 times 10, we all know that that's going to be equal to 40. Basically, what is happening? The 10 is pushing the 4, which is in the units, to the 10's place value. So now I have a 40. If I say let's do 4 times 20, that's easy because I know that 4 times 2 is 8, and then I have to write another 0. So basically the same that is happening above, but I just multiplying the 4 by the 2. Perfect. Let's say that I have 4 times 3000. Again, you say that's very easy. I just have to say 4 times 3, which is 12. And then I have 3 zeros, so I have to write 3 zeros here, which means that is 12 thousandths. So all very good. Now let's look another example, another pattern to see what is happening here. Let's say if I have 0.04. So that means 4 hundredths times 10. What is the answer? So again, the same that happened here. This 10 is going to push me this 4 into the next place value. So this one is going to become 4 tenths instead of 4 hundredths. Let's look at this one. If I have 4 hundredths times 100, what do I get? So the 4 is going to be pushed twice because I have 2 zeros here. So it's going to be pushed twice. So it's going to push once to the tenths, once to the units. So this one is going to become 4. What about if I have 4 hundredths times 1000? So how many times is it going to be pushed? It's going to be pushed 3 times. That's going to be, so it's going to be pushed one to the tenths, another one to the units, and another one to the tens. So this one is going to become 40. Nothing new for you girls there. Now, let me just, I want to see if I can move this to the, oops, sorry girls. I want to see if we can, I want to write next to it, but I don't know if this is going to allow me to do it. Okay, doesn't matter. Okay, so I want to focus on something here. I want to write this first example, this one here, this one. Let's write it as a fraction underneath here. I want to see if I can do it here. So what do I have here? I have 4 hundredths. So that's 4 hundredths times 10. Now look what happens here. What can happen here? Because this 10 becomes 10 over 1. Remember that in our previous video I said that I want you to write this as 4 times 10 over 100. Then you can cancel this 0 with this 0. So now you have 4 over 10, which is going to be 4 tenths, which is 0.4. So it makes sense what we had here. Good. Let's focus on the second one. I just want to show you that this was the blue part. Let's do the second one. So I'm going to do the pink one here. This is a mess. Okay, so I have 4 hundredths times 100, which is basically 100 over 1. And we know that I can do this as 4 times 100 over 100 times 1. And I can cancel this 0, this 0, this 0, and this 0. So that becomes 4. I'm just showing you that if we work with fractions, we get exactly to the same answer that we had here on top. Okay, let's do the last one, just in case that you haven't been convinced that it's exactly the same. I'll do the examples later on. So let's do this one, the last one. So again, I have 4 hundredths times 1000, which is going to be 4 times 1000 over 100 times 1. And you can cancel these zeros here. So basically I have 4 times 10, which we know that is 40. Okay, good. Now let's focus on the examples that we're going to work on today. So these examples are the following. We're going to do this example. Beautiful. So it's going to be 5.1 times 600, or 5 1/10 times 600. So we are going to write this as fractions. How do we do that? So the first one, how do we write it as a fraction? And it doesn't matter that it's an improper fraction. So that will be equal to 51 over 10. Agree? Because I have 1/10. So I have to write 51 over 10 times 600 over 1. And I said this in our last lesson that I wanted you to write it like this so that you can see very clear what can you simplify. So I'm going to cross this 0 with this 0, and that means that my answer is going to be 51 times 60. And I know that to do 51 times 60, I only have to focus on 51 times 6, which is going to be 6 and 30. And then I add the other 0. So my answer is going to be 3060. Do you see that? Okay, good. Let's do the other example. So example number 2. Example number 2 says 0.0364 times, too many zeros, I have no idea what is the number, 240,000. Okay, good. So again, we're going to write this as a fraction. How do we write this as a fraction? So I write 364 over, what place value do I have here? So tenths, hundredths, thousands, 10,000. So I have to write a 10,000 here. And that's one way of doing it. The other one is saying 1, 2, 3, 4 decimal places. 1, 2, 3, 4, 4 zeros times 240,000 over 1. And what can I cancel here? I can cancel this 0 with this 0, this 0 with this 0, this 0 with this 0, and this 0 with this 0. So basically I have to focus only on 364 times 24. And we can do that here. 364 times 24 is going to be equal to, I already have done this someplace here, it's going to be 8,736. So that's my answer here, 7,036. Good. So you see, at something that looked very complicated, then we were able to simplify it into something much easier. I hope you find it useful, girls.